What's up, guys? Today it's Spencer with All Ball Talk, and today I'm going to be going over my college coaching higher grades, ranging from A to F scale. I think that there were a ton of really good hires this offseason, followed by some mediocre and definitely below average ones. So, why don't we just get into it right now? So, first, I want to start off with Ryan Silverfield, which I don't think this is a good hire at all. I think that he's a decent coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I think that his teams have tend to flame out. Like, I don't think he was great at Memphis. I think that Memphis has one of the more resources in the in the AAC. I think that he has a leg up on everybody else in the league, and I think that he's still a good coach. But at Arkansas, I'm more worried that obviously they didn't fall into this trap with Sam Pittman. I think Sam Pittman was kind of this way, but I think that Ryan Silverfield, he's gonna go 6-6, 7-5. You're gonna go to a bowl game, but are you ever gonna compete for a championship? And at Arkansas, you have the resources. Arkansas is a good enough school where you can get to that point. You can still be reliable to win at a high level there. Like that should be the standard at Arkansas. Arkansas has a lot of resources. Like the standard should be 8-9 wins at minimum. But I think that the problem with Ryan Silverfield is I think that he might get probably to 4 or 5 years, but eventually, like, he's going to get fired. I think this is eventually he's gone no matter what. And moving on to the next one, I think that Tavita Pritchard, I think I'm pronouncing that right, but he's been hired at Stanford. This is interesting. So obviously he had that connection with Luck at Stanford. I think that he's coming from the NFL, obviously. And he seems like a good coach. Like, I trust the fit because he's a Stanford guy. Like, I trust him. I'm going to trust Andrew Luck's judgment on this because I think I don't really know much about him. But he's probably a good fit for Stanford because Stanford, what they have to do, they have to get back on track and they have to get guys who are Stanford guys. Like, at Stanford, they're always going to be more focused on academics. Like, we've seen they could win, at a high level in the years where they had guys like Richard Sherman and stuff, but I don't know. It's interesting with them because this is a hire that feels like you recruited the assistant. Like, this feels like there was like an outstanding accountant that you promoted a manager. Like, that's what's interesting to me is because I mean, this was completely out of the blue. Like, this is like another hire that we'll get to later, but I was shocked to see this. But it's one of the next one. Pat Fitzgerald gets hired at Michigan State. I'm gonna give it a B minus. I'm definitely lower on this one than the consensus. Like I think that he's a good coach. Like this wasn't a bad hire, but I think that you're committing to mediocrity. Like I know Pat Fitzgerald got the huge donation from the donors, and obviously that should help the football program a lot. But if we're being honest, is Pat Fitzgerald a championship winning coach? Like, I don't know. I mean, Michigan State will have the resources. They'll spend money. Like, they're a historic program. Like, they are a successful program in the past. But is he a guy that can lead a team in the Big Ten, which is in the Power 2? It's up with them in the SEC, the two best conferences in college football. Like, do you think that Pat Fitzgerald can win the Super Bowl? And if you think that, great. Like, he'll have the resources. He can get the players. He was a fairly successful coach at Northwestern. Obviously, a lot of down years, but also some really good years. In the year where he had Greg Newsome, and that defense was electric that year, where he made a run. He's not a bad coach per se, but I personally just look at this and I don't see a championship coach. And I think at Michigan State, just like Arkansas, you have the resources, and you're in a huge league where you can make the playoff. Like you don't have to win your conference to make the playoff. You could be a solid 10-win team and make the play. 10 wins in the Big Ten gets you in every year. Like, we've seen that before. So, in my opinion, like, it's solid. It's not great. Jimmy Rogers at Iowa State comes after 1 year at Washington State after Jake Dickert left to go to Wake Forest. Jimmy Rogers is kind of weird to me. He's kind of unknown. I think he's a good coach. Obviously, he's had success everywhere he's been, but there's limited experience there, and I'm interested to see because I don't know how it's going to translate. The Big 12 is not the Big 10, it's not a huge league. I think that he can definitely win the Big 12. I think that he's definitely a good. He's got to be a good coach because he's won everywhere he is. Like, and this will go back to Bob Chesney, who we'll talk about later. Like, if you're winning at the lower levels, and you're ascending quick, clearly people are putting in a good word for you. You are clearly a rising star in the industry, and obviously Jimmy Rogers could be that. But honestly, I don't know a ton. Like I'm kind of going into this blind. Iowa State, they kind of just, it was like, oh, all Penn State's focusing on Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell's gone. In I don't know 5 hours. Like it was an interesting pursuit, and it went quickly. I think that it was odd that they made the hire an hour after Matt Campbell was hired, or after Matt Campbell left. Like that was odd to me. That was really weird. But that shows me that they must have been doing their due process before the fact, and they kind of knew that Matt Campbell was gone. And Jimmy Rogers, I'll trust Iowa State's judgment right now. I just don't know. Next up, Charles Huff. I think Charles Huff's a really good coach. I just don't see this as a guy that's going to be your program for 10 years. I know it's hard at Memphis. I know Memphis is still a group of 5 school, and they still have trouble, making the playoffs. But Charles Huff, this guy went from where was he? I'm slipping my mind, but he went to go to, or he was at Marshall. He went to Southern Miss to try to rebuild them. I think this is a stepping stone job, and I think that when Charles Huff gets the first chance to leave, he's gonna take it. And I don't blame him, but it's at the end of the day, if you're successful at Memphis, you're not gonna last more than 2-3 years tops. Charles Huff, he comes out, he has sustained success in year 1. We could be looking at a Power 4 job already, So that's what interested me, because he's a good coach. I think you hired the right guy. I just don't think that I'm giving it a B because he's not going to be here for long, and that's kind of what you have to do, because you want good coaches in your program, and you want a good guy to lead your program, and they did the right job. It's just he's not going to be here for long, and that's kind of an issue. Next up, we got Jamarcus Shepard. Jamarcus Shepard is an interesting one to me because he is the wide receivers coach for Bama. I think he was co-offensive coordinator, I'm not really sure, but regardless, I saw his press conference. He looked like a good guy. I think that it was a little odd to me because Oregon State had kind of a weird process to get their coach, but I'm confident they got the right guy. I think Jamarcus Shepard, I think he's probably a good mind. He comes from he was hired by the DeBoer system, and he worked under Ryan Grubb. I'm confident he'll be able to put in a good offense, and I think he's probably a good coach. He said he comes from Bama. I thought that his personality seems like a very good college personality. I think he's going to recruit at a higher level. He seems like contagious personality, and that definitely works when you build relationships in recruiting. And I personally, I like the hire. I think it's solid. I think we'll see. I'm not going to put a ceiling on this hire, but I also think that this could also be a dumpster fire. We're talking about a guy who hasn't really, I don't think he's ever been a head coach before, so it's going to be a hard one. But I think that if it works out correctly, I think he could be a really good coach. Next up, Golesh. Alex Golesh goes to Auburn. I think I'm a little bit lower. I think I'm about in the middle. I got him at a B+. I think he's a good coach. I think that he had a shorter stint of success at South Florida. He brings Byron Brown with him, who's obviously a really good quarterback. And Auburn has the resources that you can compete day one. And the tough one for me is he seems to not be retaining any talent. Auburn is a talented team, and they have one of the best defenses in the country. This was a talented team that got taken out by their offense, and I like seeing him kind of let offensive players go, bring in their own guys, but we've seen a good amount of players leave, man. They've had 22 outgoing recruits already. That's very high, and I think Golesh is he's obviously going to be, if you would have talked to somebody after 3 weeks of the season, and they would have said, man, he's going to get the best job on the market. He had that South Florida team being ranked teams. I think they beat Florida. They kind of got ran out by Miami, but I don't know. They look like a competitive team, and I think he's a good coach. Obviously, he's definitely on his way to stardom, hopefully. But I would push back a little bit because it has been a shorter stint of being a really good coach. And I'm interested to see what he does with different research. This isn't like Summerall. John Summerall has been a ton of different places. But I don't know. I think he's still a good coach, and there's obviously upside to this, and we'll see. Jim Mora, flipping from UConn to Colorado State. I think this is a B+. I think that he's established. I think he's about as good of a hire as you can get at Colorado State. Like, I'm only rating it a B+ because it's Colorado State. Like, I don't really know how high this can go. Jim Mora. I mean, Colorado State's not a bad program at all. Like, they're in the Mountain West. That's a fine competitive conference, but Jim Mora, I think that he's had some really talented UConn teams, and I think he actually probably could have done better with those teams. Like, I think that he could have won. He could have beat Syracuse this year. He could have beat other teams. He went 9-3 on a team that he had one of the best quarterbacks he's ever had. He's had the best receiver he's ever had in Skylar Bell. Like, he plays a weaker schedule. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I look at him and I think that he's, even though it's UConn, I think that he actually could have done better at UConn. And he has a good mind, but his teams have been very inconsistent, and I don't know. It's just he is a proven he's an NFL guy. He's a good coach, but I just don't think that there is that upside to this hire that there are for other guys. Like, I'll get to it next. But Will Stein, he could go to the moon, but he could also be in the trash. Like, he could be trashed in 2 years. Like, it could be an dumpster fire. But Jim Mora, I don't see that championship. We can't expect championships at Colorado State, but I'm not sure if I really see him winning multiple Mountain West championships. You know what I mean? Like, and I think at Colorado State, that's definitely doable. Like, the Mountain West is good, but I would be expecting a lot. I would expect him to compete with Boise and UNLV and San Diego State every single year, and I don't know if he'll be able to do that there. It worries me a little bit. Yeah, next up, Will Stein. I think that he comes from Oregon. He comes from a good coaching tree. He's a likable guy. He runs a really good offense, an offense that has been productive, with him at the helm the last 2 years. And I think it's a good hire. Like, Kentucky, they've been missing. Kentucky, with Mark Stoops, they got stagnant. They became a stagnant program, stuck in the mud. And I think Will Stein's going to take them out. I think Will Stein has a really good offensive mind. I think that he'll bring in his guy. And I think that Kentucky will have a higher-powered offense like they've had a couple of years ago. And I think this is a B+ hire. I think the only thing stopping me from having it as an A- is that I think that there is a floor that if Will Stein doesn't work out in his first head coaching gig, that it could honestly be kind of bad. Like, it worries me if he were to flame out. Like, I could see this team being awful. And 2 years later, he's not a good, like, this Kentucky team goes 3-9 and Will Stein gets thrown in the dumpster. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, but I also think this team could be 10-2 in the college football playoff in 2 years. So Kentucky has resources too. You can recruit players to Kentucky. Like, they have a high NIL fund. So I'm excited to see it. Colin Klein, pretty much the same thing. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. I think he's kind of been the coach in waiting. Like, I know he went to Texas A&M from Kansas State, but I think they always knew he was going to be the guy to take over for him, and I think he's a good offensive coordinator who will run a good offense and hopefully unlock Avery Johnson. Obviously, that's goal number one, is that he makes this Kansas State team with that firepower get back to 10-2 when you had Deuce Vaughn and that's in my mind. Well, when they had Adrian Martinez that one time, Will Howard when he was their quarterback, but I think that you can definitely get him back to that, and he's a good offensive coordinator. So we'll see. I think they did a good job in hiring him. Kyle Whittingham, I have an A-. Honestly, this would be an A+. I think he's established. I think he's he's going to stabilize the program. He's going to get the program away from all these allegations that Michigan clearly just can't escape under Warren Manuel. But I think that the only reason that this is an A+ is because he's only gonna be your coach for 4 to 5 years. Like you're not gonna be 72. I know it's Kyle Whittingham, but he's not gonna be 72. Coaching this program, which is a high level program, one of the best jobs in college football. I don't think that he's going to be coaching them at 73. And I think there's gonna be an eventual coach in waiting. But I think he's established good coach, and I think he could get Michigan to 10-2, 11-1 every year with those resources that he has. I think it's a good hire, in my opinion. I think it's an A hire. And John Summerall gets an A- for me. I might not be as big on him as other people, but I think that he was really good at Tulane. I think he can build a program, and I think he has that coaching moxie that you look for in a coach, and he could definitely be a good coach. I think that Florida, you have the resources. You are a huge program in Gainesville. That is a big NIL fund that Summerall can work with. And if he finds the right guys, if he finds the right quarterback now that Lagway's gone, I think this will bring Florida into a place where they could definitely get, which is a top 5 team in the nation. You're telling me Florida can't be like Ole Miss? No way. Ole Miss is probably right now how Lane Kiffin has left them. This is as good as Ole Miss can get. And guess what? Ole Miss is a championship contender. They have a really good team. And Florida has even more money than that. Florida can get there. And obviously they had a ton of hype coming into the year. They fired Billy Napier midway. Billy Napier. It sucks because I think he recruited a lot of talent. I think he was a decent coach. Just, something didn't click there. And I think that I'll get to it later. I think it was a good hire on James Madison. But Summerall, I'm interested to see how he works out. Eric Morris, obviously, I think the huge thing is you bring Drew Mestemaker with you almost for sure. It's getting announced January 2nd. Drew Mestemaker led the nation in passing yards. He's a really good quarterback, and I'm excited to see where Eric Morris can build this Oklahoma State to succeed. Succeed sounds like a weird because Mike Gundy's been fired, but I don't know. I think he's a program builder. He obviously has an eye for talent. I mean, he picked up Drew Mestemaker, who never started a varsity game, which is unbelievable to me. But obviously Eric Morris is doing something right, and I'm assuming he'll bring it to Oklahoma State. Bob Chesney, this is the new up-and-coming coach. I think he's a proven winner. People are trying to find the next Signetti. Obviously, he coached James Madison. This could be Bob Chesney, and I think he's a home run hire for UCLA. UCLA is lucky to have him. He brings a lot of JMU guys probably with him. He will hopefully develop Nico Iamaleava. I think that he can unlock the 5-star in him that we didn't even necessarily see at Tennessee. He was a good quarterback at Tennessee, but was he really what we all thought he was going to be at Tennessee? No. But I think Bob Chesney can unlock that. We'll see. I think it's a good hire. I think he can get UCLA with that. UCLA has a lot of money too, and I think that he can get UCLA back to that probably 8-win probably in year 1. You have talent there. I think that he can get them 9 or 10 in the future. I think it's a good coach, good hire. Billy Napier, James Madison, very good. I'm very impressed with Billy Napier. I'm impressed with this hire because I thought that Billy Napier would probably take the year off. I don't know how many programs would take a shot on him, but I think he's a good coach. He was really good at Louisiana. I think maybe at the mid-major level, Billy Napier's a really good coach, and he's not damaged goods. He can recruit. Obviously he had some success in Florida. There's a reason he lasted until the midway through the year this year. He struck gold on those last 5 games last year. Probably the most hype a 7-5 team has ever had. It was unbelievable, and I think Billy Napier's a good coach who will. I think he'll keep James Madison up. He'll keep this team afloat. Obviously, they survived Signetti by hiring Bob Chesney, and hopefully they survive Bob Chesney by hiring Napier. So we'll see. Lane Kiffin, I think you guys have heard enough. Not much. He's the obvious good hire. He's built Ole Miss back up. He's a really good coach. And he was obviously priority number one for LSU, and he went to LSU. LSU has tons of resources. They paid him a lot of money, and we'll see how he is there. Not much more to say. I think it was just the obvious hire. I might be in the minority here, but Tosh Lupoi for me was an A. I think he's a perfect fit. He's obviously an alumni. He coached linebackers there. I think he's the perfect coach for JKS. I'm not going to butcher his name. I think that he's going to get this Cal team to play hard. And with Justin Wilcox, they lacked kind of this physicality fight element where they were kind of a soft team and they didn't battle hard in games. I think this Cal team is more talented than 7-5. I think they were much better than 7-5. Especially when you have a star true freshman quarterback. You had a good defense. There's no reason that team should have gone to 7-5. I think Justin Wilcox is a good coach, but I think Tosh Lupoi is a program builder. I think he's a really good recruit. I think he can recruit at a high level. I think that we haven't seen much, but he coached a good defense at Oregon, a really good defense, actually. I know it's different resources, different players, but it all is. And Tosh Lupoi, he can recruit that Hawaii, West Coast area really well. He can recruit those Hawaii guys that transfer to Bishop Gorman. We'll see, but I think it's a home run hire. I think that he's a really good coach, and I think he'll bring Cal up to 9-10 wins, although I could see his coordinators getting poached. He's also bringing a good coaching tree with him under Dan Lanning. Matt Campbell, A+. The fact that Penn State gets to just luck into a hire kind of pisses me off, honestly. The fact that they swung and missed on Kalani Sitake, they swung and missed on DeBoer, it pisses me off that they get to luck into Matt Campbell, who was probably their fourth priority, probably the best coach they could have gotten. Matt Campbell is a program builder. He built that Iowa State team, who was one of the worst programs of all time. They were absolutely awful before he got there. And Matt Campbell got him up to 9 wins, 10 wins. That's phenomenal. I mean, he's a program changer, and I think he's going to bring this Penn State team into levels that James Franklin had them. But it worries me. They never, in my opinion, they just never should have fired James Franklin, but I think they got the best possible replacement for him. James Franklin at Virginia Tech is an A+. He's the best hire they could have possibly gotten. He's the best coach that Virginia Tech could have gotten. He can recruit that East Coast area. He flipped all of his Penn State recruits. He is a really good coach who never should have been let go. Obviously, he didn't win the big game, but he made the semifinals last year. It's people forget that. He was one game away from making the national championship, and Penn State threw him out like he was damaged goods. He can win a big game. I think it's in him. Just like in basketball, where Matt Painter, it's this guy can't win the big game, but then he does. It's only a matter of time with these really good coaches, and I think James Franklin can win big games at Virginia Tech. I think he's in an easy conference that he's going to win a lot of games in with a lot of blue chip talent that other teams don't have. So I think it's really higher. Brian Hartline at USF, this is phenomenal. This guy has been a coach who has been so highly touted at Ohio State. I don't think I've ever seen a position coach who has now become an OC, but with more respect around the business. It's unbelievable to me. This guy, he was up for the Penn State. People were calling for him to get the Penn State job. That's unbelievable to me. He is that good of a coach, that respected, and he goes down to a group of 5. Hopefully with, USF, he'll have a lot of success. He's gonna recruit. We had Chris Henry completely rethink his recruitment after Hartline left. Ohio State, he must have been an amazing coach for them to rethink their recruitment. He was obviously the engine that made the offense work with getting all those. They were 4 and 5 stars, but he developed Ohio State receivers into something that became great. And obviously, I think he's a really good hire for USF, and he'll hopefully transform the offense. He'll recruit really well, and I think this ultimately he's bound to get a better job in the future. He's bound to get a huge Power 2 job, in my opinion. And I think that you got him early at USF, and I think the USF is gonna succeed after Golesh. Now, and I think the Heartline eventually leaves for a Power 2 job. I think this is the best they could have done. So, yeah. Anyway, those are my coaching grades for the off season of 2025. Going into the 2026 season, I think that obviously I had a lot of A's. I mean, there were some really good hires. There were really good candidates coming from lower levels or going from Power 4 to Power 4, and I think that the big schools made good hires, and I really didn't see many hires I didn't like. Obviously, a lot of these are bound to flame out. I'm going to be wrong on a lot of these in a few years, but personally, I was pretty impressed with what the programs do processes, and I'm excited to see how well they succeed in the future.